Hello, this is J.N.S, and I just wanted to do a quick live. I had started a conversation with Black Americans series like a couple years ago, and so periodically, like when I have something cogent that I want to say to my lineage, I'll usually make a video titled "Conversation with Black Americans," but um, that's going to go in the playlist with the Black Americans. But today, I didn't necessarily want to title that conversation with Black Americans because I wanted you to know what exactly we would be talking about today. And so the title of this video is Black Americans Must Evolve the Conversation Around Empowerment, politically, spiritually, and strategically. And so it's been no secret that I had been in the reparations space for like the last, let's see, since 2018, but more broadly, uh, in the Black American empowerment space since 2011. So it's been a very long time. And I've been, behind the scenes, just always studying, the community as a participant observationist, but also, um, giving my perspective and putting forth things that I think would be good for the community. And so I got more vocal about 3 years ago, mainly in the reparation space. And so, that is what's inspiring, or that's the context to this particular video. And so, first and foremost, I want to say that this video is not meant to like bash the work that other people are doing or to have like a negative overtone. It's just purely objective in a sense where it's just me observing some things and me just giving my opinion on it, or my perspective rather. Um, and so, we have these conversations about like, empowerment, cultural collation, identity, all of these things that we've been talking about for the last 3 years nonstop. But it's been longer. Like I would say, like with the reparations stuff, it really picked up steam in 2018. But in regards to like cultural collation, I would say once we started to think about like identity and misnomers and a name in terms of naming our lineage, that is also it's always been around. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying as far as like concretizing information about culture and being in the forefront of culture collation, that's relatively new, believe it or not. When I say new, I'm talking it's at least under 10 years old in terms of taking that on as a serious task among Black Americans. Of course, you had people off and on for decades talking about lineage and culture. So I'm not saying that that's new. I'm just saying it took a whole new life of its own around 2018, when Black Americans started to question flat Blackness, when Black Americans started to question the idea of alliances, the idea of Blackness in terms of the immigration with the African immigrants and all this stuff just started just coming up, and it really took a life of its own and on social media. And so, I how do I say this? It's not that I left the conversation or that I left the movement or that I kind of just left the space. I've more so pivoted because the space wasn't serving me in the way that my mind needs it to. And my mind is very strategic. I think very fast. I think very deeply. I'm very agile. I like innovation. I like things to just be a little more serious. And so I was not getting that any longer in the reparation space, nor in the broader Black American community space in terms of the cultural collation. And so I decided to pivot to carve out my own space where I can have that intensity that I'm looking for, that strategy, that I like a think tank. a think tank type of vibe, but also when I'm in that mode, I like to I like it to be very strategic. I like it to be productive. I don't like to just, you know, pussyfoot, or I just didn't like the energy I was getting from that space. And I'm just be frank with you. It started to feel stagnant. Okay, it started to feel very, very stagnant. Like when we started out, it seemed very authentic. It seemed very raw. It seemed very gutter. Like it was grassroots Black Americans, young and old, educated, uneducated, blue collar, white collar, no collar. It didn't matter. It was just like we were for the first time really thinking about like how do we put ourselves in a position of power? Like how can we get recompense for some of the things that we have experienced generationally, and how can we get restitution for some of the things that we were experiencing in real time in terms of being locked out of the workforce, of feeling locked out. Because some things, I've evolved on, but it's not even a feeling, but there is legitimate, reason for why Black Americans feel that way, including myself, and also um, things with, the things we were concerned with, housing discrimination, workplace discrimination, uh, the income, like it was just all types of stuff we were talking about at that time. And so, we had some really cool ideas. We would spend hours and hours and hours talking about this stuff, like about how do we, get these reparations? How do we come together? How do we build community? How do we build culture? How do we, like it was just it took a life of its own, and so that was really exciting for me and very rewarding for me. In terms of just letting out that cathartic, just letting out that those emotions around the how do I say this, the pain that I felt um, of dealing with what we have to see in our community, and me coming from a background of humbled me to me coming from a background where my family got plummeted, in terms of like the Jim Crow era, um, and whatnot. And so it was personal for me, and so um, when the conversations initially started, it was very exciting, but it took a turn for the worse, in my opinion, because it seemed like those grassroots movements have been heavily infiltrated, and it's heavily infiltrated in a way in which it's strategically designed to where that stagnation um, is okay, and that there are distractions to placate Black Americans so that they don't realize that they're not actually progressing. The conversation is not progressing in terms of methodologies for empowerment and the things that you want to see in our community, be that the business, whether that be business, whether that be infrastructures, whether that be reparations, whatever it is. I just noticed for the last 3 years, the conversation has been the same. There has not been any cogent strategy or action plan towards getting what we want. And again, I think that's by design. And I notice, like some of the brightest minds are some of the Black Americans that are the most spirited in terms of like really, really wanting this, really serious about like our empowerment, really serious about like our community and then seeing it, uh, go a certain way, or they're just strategic. Uh, those that are of that nature that have this renegade essence to them, they are being, they have been locked out, and at worst targeted for assassination by said Black gatekeepers. I personally am one of those people, and so um, if those, what's going to happen, obviously is, Black Americans, they work in waves. Their mind, our mind works in waves in terms of things coming in phases. And so while right now it's like you guys are looking, you're in an emotional state where we're recovering our identity, we're recovering from the trauma, but eventually that clarity was set in. The clarity's already set in for me, so I'm a little bit early, but the clarity's going to set in, and it's going to be very obvious that the work for the last 5 years, the last 3 to 5 years, while it started off authentic, while it started off raw, while it started off purposeful, while it started off productive, you were going to see within the turn around 2022 to 2023 in particular, 2023, this year, starting this year, from here on, from now, but really what you'll see is, I would say even 2022, yeah, 2022 to where we are now. Um, we should be a lot farther strategically in terms of where these conversations have been. And so once that clarity sets in, that wait a minute, we're actually not moving forward. This conversation is not moving forward. This reparations conversation is not moving forward. None of this stuff is moving forward. In terms of action, then it's going to become clear who are the agents in controlled opposition. I don't even like that word agent, 'cause everybody say everybody fucking agent. So you can't, that word is not even, that means nothing. But you'll start to see like, wait a minute, is this like a psyop? Is this like some sort of social engineer? Is this like a bigger political play? You'll start to see things that I can already see. So my concern is that there is too much stagnation in the conversation that makes it restless. It's going to make it restless for the Black Americans who are serious, uh, and that that Black Americans that constantly strategize and that believe in being agile. They're going to realize that the methodology is not working and that there's not really a cogent action plan. And so, and I say that because like I observe things, even if it seems like I may not be as vocal in spaces or speaking out as much on this particular topic. I'm still observing it because I took my energy out of it because it just, again, it wasn't serving me, and it got wonky. Like it's that plate, that space is infiltrated for sure. So I just find it disturbing though, like it's like 3 years later and we still talking about like Africans, and it's like arguing with these Africans and then talking about task force, talking about these various task force and the dissatisfaction with the task force. Here's the thing: the whole methodology around the reparations task force is flawed, and so that's not strategy to me. So the thing is that this idea of popping up all these reparation tasks all over the country, that's to placate Black Americans. It's nothing more than a carrot dangling in front of your face. It's just to, it's a distraction, because the methodology of the reparations task force, for this study to see how much you would get on the state and local level, um, it's not going to actually yield federal level reparations. And even if it was state level, you guys know that these reparation task force, whether it be New York or wherever, it got fucking Pan Africans on it, people that's trying to get reparations for everybody on this task force. So again, on top of the actual methodology being flawed, whether or not you do federal or state level, whether or not you go legally or politically, that that is a whole nother beast that would take some time to carve out with your best and brightest minds in a think tank, let alone the idea that there are Pan Africans and random people that's not even Black American on a task force for reparations task force for slavery. That's the second methodology that doesn't make sense. A reparation task force for slavery, versus the injury and the crimes that you can argue that you have been affected for. So it's not it's reparations for slavery versus reparations for the latent functions of slavery that you can empirically prove that all Black Americans deal with to this day. So, for instance, the redlining, that is a latent function of slavery. But redlining, obviously, we have empirical proof. I can pull up scholarly research from that was done by the federal government, years ago, not even years ago, but like, pretty recent, that's stating that redlining literally all throughout Chicago, all throughout the South, all throughout, is literally affecting Black Americans to this day in terms of poverty, in terms of the racial wealth gap. And so that would be a latent function that you would have a better case for, whether that be politically or even legally. Like that's what or the concept of genocide. That you can make a cogent case for, obviously. Redlining is one. What's another one? You can do one for housing discrimination, job discrimination, all this because of lineage, because of Black American lineage. These are the latent functions of slavery that are affecting us. But to say, see, that's very much that's it. And I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. That I'm not saying, oh, we should disregard slavery. I'm saying the latent functions of slavery that have empirical impact in today's time on the Black American. And it's not like we don't have a case for that. We certainly have a case for that. And so again, that's another issue with the methodology itself that I would just take issue with. It's like, okay, you're telling Black Americans, okay, this is the reparations task force for slavery, for the transatlantic slave trade from Africa. And now you got a whole bunch of Black Americans that's like, we can't prove that none of us came off them boat. Da, da, da. Then you got that argument. Then you got people that then you got the power structure that says none of you niggas been enslaved. Why are we paying that out again? None of you been enslaved. Half of you talking about you indigenous from America. The other half of you can't even prove. You don't even know where, if you was if you were a descendant of a Moor, if you're descendant of an African, if you're descendant of a slave. What? And it's a clobbered mess. And that's what I mean. But that's when I say like the methodology and the strategy is not carved out, and that's by design. And I know I'm radical, and I know people are like, because I get down to the bottom of shit. I just don't have. And that's why I couldn't cut it. When it comes to like selling out people and selling my people, I just don't have that in my blood, because to me it's like I see things multidimensionally, and I see things from a perspective of wanting to see the best for humans. And so I can't just turn a blind eye to lack of strategy, to stupid methodology, to things that I know are unproductive, the things that I know that are wasting time. And so that's why I took a break from that space, because I said, "Oh, this is some infiltrated. It's all hogwash." And so for me, either that, or the people are not sophisticated enough in their thinking. And you don't want to think like that, because these people are sophisticated in their thinking. So it's like, okay, so this is just by design, some political type shit that they just doing to waste Black Americans' time. And Black Americans is just so emotional, and they can't see the play for what it is. That's the only thing I could think of, because I'm like, you got half of the country that's ready to literally sue any uh, local municipality that goes for this reparations thing. You got people that's willing to sue the government for that, and you got 50% of the country that don't even support it. And so you have to deal with that aspect of it. And so it has to be to me, a whole other plan carved out, not to work with that or not to placate those people that say we don't deserve it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, you need a methodology how to get around that in a clandestine way, to where they're distracted and your shit and you get to the finish line of the goal of what we need. And it's not even so much distracted. That's the wrong word, because I have to. The word is not distracted, but they're so placated uh, that the idea of Black Americans getting their reparations on through some sort of on a federal level, that wouldn't scare anybody. That wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, because I'll show you what that looks like. I'll give you an example of what that looks like in a little bit, because there's a way to do that. But that's also another thing that Black Americans have to get around. It's not so much kissing people's asses or trying to get along with it to get along. It's about like, okay, how can I, through A through Z, what kind of plan can I carve out to make sure that this can actually get done, even if it on some type of level. It may not be for transatlantic trade slavery, but it would be something that we can empirically prove, something that you just have concrete data for in 2 days' time. The Latin functions of slavery, and some sort of fund, some sort of program fund, not a program, but like a fund for Black Americans to receive compensation for the latent functions of slavery, obviously. And so that would be in some form of a policy, like some sort of. I'll get into what that looks like, but for what I'm seeing now in this space, I'm just seeing like the conversations about the Africans and it's still and this task force stuff, this is stuff that's already been hashed out, even stuff about identity. People still arguing about identity. I saw. I'm like, why are we still talking about name banging? I thought we solved that a year ago. Like to me, I thought that I guess I'm like, once we get to the bottom of one thing, wouldn't we move on to the next thing? Like, no, are we still talking about the right to self-identify? We carved that out 2 years ago. Of course, you have the right to self-identify. Of course, we already came up with various nomenclatures for Black Americans that people go by, whether that be people who call themselves just Black American, people who call themselves some people calling themselves freedmen's, and there's a riff with that, and then the FBA stuff, and then the ADOS. But that moment in time seems to me to have passed. Like we've already established that we have the right to identify, and that within this Black American identity, this Black American lineage, there are splinter nomenclatures based on geographical reasons, based on uh, philosophical reasons, based on even political ideology. And so to me, it's like we're past that. No, like, and maybe, to me, it's like we already talked about this, the right to self-identify. We already talked about uh, gatekeeping culture for like the last 2 years, and I wrote a whole book on it about damn near going on 2 years ago. We argued we talked about the immigration. We've been talking about that since 2018. We went hard in the paint on immigration. We already established whatever policies we support, it has to have a moratorium on immigration. And this, where I'm with it, is where we got to come up with all this stuff as Black Americans. Now I'm going to push the conversation a bit, and it's going to be a little radical, but somebody, one of the young youth who watched this, maybe a couple years from now, it could be 10 years from now, it doesn't matter. But somebody from, but once I put these ideas out, because I'm building up there, I'm building up to that point. Somebody gonna run with the ideas that I put in this video, and they're gonna take it to another level. And God bless them, and I hope that it spreads like wildfire. Um, and because we need to push this conversation along. But again, for 3 years, we've done all these things. I'm still seeing people arguing about the Indian thing. And I'm like, damn, we established that there were Black Americans already over here. So we still arguing about being Indian? Like, I thought we did that for 2 years. Like that's done. Like we same thing with the who gets reparations. This is only for descendants. I thought we carved that out 2 years ago. So it's like, but seeing us still argue about these type of things, or seeing and just from me studying and seeing the observations, and just assessing where the conversation is at, I'm like, okay, there should be next steps. And so it really leads me to think that there is some social engineering behind this. It really is, like, to have a community harping on the same things when there is like this boundless, limitless potential and what we can do as a people. And I'm like, is our confidence still not up there? Is that what we need to work on? Is the collective confidence? Because I don't quite understand why we're not there yet. Like I'm just not. So it may be that. It may be that, I would have to take a step back to see, like, okay, is it the collective self-esteem that still needs work? And perhaps that could be it. So perhaps as far as a part of our culture collation, we need to do more work around collective self-esteem building. Obviously, individually, we all have work to do with that. That could be a very personal thing, but I'm talking about the collective self-esteem of community collation, uh, and strategy. The high level confidence in our ability to push our agenda, push it hard with a very, very sound strategy. I like that type of thing. Um, and so again, I talked to you guys a little bit about the reparation strategy that I had took issue with the methodology of actually going through this task force that they push up all of these task force over the place, and then we see the lady vaccine from the Living Singles with the Ben and Jerry's ice cream and all that. Come on, come on. That's when I knew. I said, "Oh, I'm out. I'm done." Because come on, you know. So to me, it just looks like that could be a possible co-opting. It seems like state, like some type of Democrat co-opting to keep a carrot dangling in our face. Like, and for those of us that's really like out here struggling, like we really like, I'm telling you, like the idea of reparations, you know, because we be working hard and we do a lot. You know, it's not like we're lazy. You know, some work harder than others. Of course, Black Americans are very hard workers. You know, we're very, you know, patriotic and stuff. You know, we feel like we put a lot into this country. We have. It's not that we feel, we have put a lot into this country, and so um, you know, the idea of this reparations, that's a very emotional thing for a lot of us. And it seems to us like the powers that be know that shit. And so they're bringing up all these task forces and getting us all excited. And to me, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have that emotion. What I'm saying is I disagree with that. I disagree with the methodology of just popping up state task force and putting random ass Pan Africans and random ass people who have nothing to do with our lineage on it, and then have it, you know, have you guys show up. They're going to do whatever they want to do. They have no intentions on doing what we want. And so to me, I take issue with that methodology. Totally, totally, absolutely. And so that's what I mean. And so uh, to me, that's where I pivot in strategy. Okay, but and this is something I think that Black Americans should be thinking about. I really think they should be thinking about, is this task force methodology even something that we should be even giving our energy to? Because here they come up with the methodology. We didn't come up with that methodology. The grassroots didn't come up with that methodology. Let's be real. Somebody higher players picked that, and we thought maybe this could work. So it's not like you knock it off front, right? It's like, well, let's see if it works. Maybe, maybe not. You know, but what we see now, it's been 3 years now, you know, since this stuff. And so we looking at the method, you know, we can assess the methodology now. We can do an evaluation. And yeah, I don't like this strategy. That's all I'm saying, you know. So we're talking about the evolution of strategy and our consciousness and everything that leads to progress, okay? And so before I give just a quick strategy, and I'm gonna be going off the dome. I'm actually live right now. Let me see. I hope. Let's see. Is anybody okay? Our community so trauma bound region. Oh, I see your comment. I'm not. No comment. But I'm gonna keep going. I want to say that my mind and my energy, it became too big for that space, and so it started to it just if I want to put a target on my back, um, that I would say very clearly in terms of surveillance. In terms, I was the one that had to deal with all that. You know, and other people, whatever they were, that these niggas is not serious, and I'm sitting here serious, and I have to deal with the repercussions of that. And don't nobody got your back because they all in on the targeting, right? So it's like that space became it started to not serve me, and that is why I pulled out and started to like assess and conclude that one, how do I say this? I don't think that my community is ready for me. I don't think that you guys are ready for someone that's dead ass serious about these type of topics. Like when I talk about the Queen Mothership governance, when I'm studying legalese and studying like how to break it, what's the difference between a government and a governance, and how do you get around admiralty law, the law of water that our government uses, and start to transcend that. Like I'm literally sitting here wrecking my brain thinking about things for like, oh, with the Queen Mothership governance for Black Americans, and certain things that we could do, parallel infrastructures that we could build that can actually serve us. And you know, it's like I don't. People are just not. Nobody is serious. You know. I mean, you got some are, but they not in that space. They're not. They're not in the reparation space. You know. And another thing is, I think that that movement is just infiltrated. And I think that's why the conversation is not evolving. It's purposeful. Three, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. I will not ever, 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 deny this. But I know for a fact that there were players in that space that tried to set me up for assassination. Absolutely know it. And so that's another reason why I'm like, okay, hell no. And that's really hurtful because it's like the space that you've been involved with for since 2011 in terms of this Black empowerment stuff. And to see, people that you think that you building with that care for you, or people that you think that are like minded, that you care for, um, the see them plotting, that plotting and that jealousy, that envy, that shit that Black people do. I just couldn't. That was another reason why I'm very, very. That's why I won't ever be in that space. I have to create my own space, and I have to disseminate the stuff that I want to disseminate that way. But I would never try to go back into that space where the leaders are not serious. These quote unquote gatekeepers, leaders, whatever, these oath takers. They're not serious, and they work against your best interests as Black Americans. And most of you cannot see that yet. You will see it, but you just can't see it yet. And so, behold the day when Black Americans wake up to what I see. They will eventually see that they have been moving in the same circle since 2018 with no progress, no new energy. And so the good thing is, the silver lining in that would be that eventually there would be that new energy that pops up raw from the grassroots again. And so what usually happens is these Black think tank gatekeepers, they start to adapt grassroots strategies in increments to stay relevant. And so that means that eventually Black Americans are going to become so radical in terms of their unrest and their dis-ease with the system that something's going to break. Either these think tank operatives are going to push the limits of strategy based on the grassroots sentiment, or there's going to be a complete break in the structure. That's what's going to happen. And so, but as far as the think tank strategies influencing the grassroots, that is not going to happen. You guys have been trying to do that shit for 3 years, failure after failure after failure. That is not going to happen because Black Americans can tell clear as day when something is operative, when it's an operative bureaucratic energy, and so that energy is automatically rejected. So that's one thing that strategy that has been happening has been failing. So the only other methodology, the only way that I see the conversation pushing forward in terms of politically would be that these think tanks adopt the grassroots strategies in increments. And I suspect that those strategies that are grassroots, I'm talking about very, very raw, not this YouTube thought leader stuff. I'm talking about just real, real raw. Um, that that would be that's going to become more radical, not in a sense of like toxic radical, like rioting or nothing like that. Not that type of radical. I'm talking about in terms of the sophistication around the strategy itself, but also how different it is from the current system, how different it is from the current structure. And so those gatekeepers are going to have to incrementally start to alter the system to cater to all these Black Americans that want to see something new and different, or there'll be a complete rift, and those people will go off to do their own thing, and there'll be a complete breakdown in the structure. And this could happen just in the broader America, by the way. This just doesn't have to be with Black Americans. This is already starting to happen with Middle America, and so um, it transcends just the race thing. And so again, at that point, also Black Americans will be able to clearly see who the agents are, and they'll pivot as they become irrelevant. So that's also another thing that I foresee. So to pivot the conversation forward, as far as what I'll add to the space, again, not that I'll add to the space, I'll add to my space, because again, I'm not going anymore. Like, I spent years in those spaces, giving strategy, talking behind the scenes, working with people behind the scenes, coming up with frameworks, being heavily involved in that arena, only to realize how infiltrated it is. And so for me, I have no interest in that. But what I still know people from that space sometimes check in with me, and people from that space listen to the videos that relate to Black Americans. They'll still listen. And so for those minds, and for anybody that's real raw and authentic, that does happen to listen to what I'm saying, or you may be one of those people in those think tanks, you may be one of those operatives, who knows? But and that's fine. But like, if for those who may listen in the future, um, as you hear me talk about pivoting the conversation, I know I'm a little early for my time, but take don't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. Take and parse what I'm saying, in that regard. And so, I'll add to my space. I'll be carving out, just a plan of action. Is going to be a little bit on the fly, but I just said I took issue with the task force methodology, this idea of the state coming up with all of these reparation task force, and with random ass people that have nothing to do with our lineage, people that are Pan African ideologists, all types of stuff, and that don't even believe in lineage based reparations, all of this task force stuff. I disagree with that methodology. And so I would say we pivot from that. And one way that I'm thinking of, and again, whoever will listen to this in the future, develop it, advance it even more. I'm literally going off the fly here. But one way is to develop a profile of a candidate, or a couple of candidates, um, as well as some executive actions of a particular Black American, from our lineage, that that is not under oaths, not under, just they're very, very, very much renegade. They're very much uh, with agenda, for compensation, for restitution. And so this person would actually, this profile that you will be building would be potential presidential candidates. Now, I know I'm a little early on this, because I know my people are not thinking about, okay, let's push somebody with our agenda for the White House. I know that we're not there yet, because our collective confidence is not there. But this is where I'm at. I'm personally there. And so this is just, uh, probably maybe about 10 to 15 years, or maybe 4. I don't know, maybe I'm 10 years early, but nonetheless, you're building this executive, this profile, as well as executive actions, of a candidate who would hold our agenda as a top priority, as an executive order, while simultaneously, this cannot be a one track minded president. They will need to appeal to the broader American public, uh, not just about the reparation stuff, but this needs to be just about American policy in general, various policies, and I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. And so what you would do is, this candidate just cannot be making this spectacle, just this obnoxious it's not a protest candidate. This would not be a protest candidate that you would be going for. This would not be a third party candidate who has no chance. This person would need to be running for, uh, preferably Republican, as a Republican. I don't fuck with them Democrats, but they need to be running as a Republican, perhaps independent. But for me, for what I'm thinking, they need that, as far as the funding and the backing, because I know with the third party stuff, it's harder. When you do the Green Party and all this other stuff, and so to me, it seemed like they would need, for now, unless because that may be dismantled by the time we get there. The two-party system may be dismantled, for all you know. It can happen, but I would say, this would be done. Obviously, I'm talking to a think tank at this point, but you would develop this profile who can gather the hearts and the minds of all Americans through their policies, and those policies and programs are not just obviously for Black Americans. Now, the priority, they have an agenda for the Black American, okay? But in addition, because this has to be a a well-rounded candidate, they have policies that are good for Middle America, that are good for the economy, that are good for manufacturing, that are good for the military, that are good for you literally see. And when we talk about policies, I mean, I'm not saying it would be full blown, just the agendas, just things as a candidate that that you could see that they have a developed plan for these for America, and a part of America includes those who have been marginalized, those who are suffering latent functions of injustices, which we can obviously make that case for Black Americans. And so um, that agenda is one of, say, a directive of many directives, not of many, but like say six directives. And so what would happen is this candidate, you know, again, they're not just like it's not a spectacle like that situation with the Tennessee Three or whatever, with the guy who was doing the Martin Luther King speech, and then they had some white lady, they holding the hands and doing a fist. None of that bullshit. That looks ridiculous. Are they trying to mimic the 1960 era? And with the politics, that's not what I'm talking about. You gotta evolve your thinking. Okay, whoever was in that think tank, whoever thought of that shit, they need to be slapped. And and I know that was thought of from the top, but whoever thought of that bullshit, they just come here so I can slap your ass. But I'm kidding. I'm joking. But yeah. So what would happen is these policies would be so. Um, Let me actually share. No, I'll keep going and then I'll share. Um, the policies would be so cogent in terms of the plans that they had to have for like foreign policy, the plans they have for the military, the plans that they have for American work life and balance, the education, all of these things for America. These candidates or candidate, or it could be candidates because you can run them for just outside of I would say hit it, go for the head hunt, the office, go straight for that White House, go straight for that throne. But also you can do it for Congress, you can do this for the Senate seat, whatever. But these got to be Black Americans as well. That's grassroots, renegade. They not under oath. They they can push. They can actually push our agenda. They can actually push an agenda, but they have this American mindset. They don't have this chip on their shoulder. They're very relatable, and they can appeal to the hearts and minds of the broader American public while still maintaining and holding on to that agenda. And for what I'm hearing from my people is they want the restitution, they want the crime bill, the hate crime bill. Hey, that's very doable. That don't sound like something that's too crazy. Everybody else got something to protect them, a bill, a policy to protect them. So I don't see the crime bill thing. I don't see what's it called? No, it's not a hate crime bill. Yeah, it is the hate crime bill. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I see. But again, that well-roundedness will and what's being offered in terms of the policies that's being put forward, or the agendas that's being put forward that that candidate would be for, would actually serve as a placation, or a, again, I don't like that word distraction, but a placate. I don't even like that word either, but it would placate Middle America and the rest of society to where it's like they're focused on, like, they're getting their needs met. So pretty much everybody's getting their needs met. And so the idea of Black Americans in particular getting their needs met is not upsetting everybody else. It's not like you got to have a civil war in America because Black Americans are getting their needs met. That's what I'm talking about. That type of level of strategy around that that needs to be carved out. And so uh, once this president gets in there again, they're not making this spectacle of all this. This is just a candidate that has an agenda. They can do an executive order for that hate crime bill, and for the restitution of this restitution fund for the latent functions of Jim Crow and redlining and housing discrimination. Obviously, those are the latent functions of slavery that could be started. But again, we have the research. already proving that the Black Americans today are affected by redlining even today. Even me, actually, even my family, my particular bloodline is affected by was affected by Jim Crow because of the land that we lost, as well as the KKK in the South, as well as um, the redlining. So we can certainly make a case for that. Even HUD discrimination. Come on, like we can make a we can make a case for that. We can make a case for the housing discrimination with the subprime mortgage prices in 2008. We have did Wells Fargo not pay out hundreds of millions to Black Americans? But the Department of Justice had to get involved. That's how bad it was for what they specifically did to Black American lineage. Like that's been proven. So that's the case. That's something. Maybe that one's already been resolved, but obviously there's broader issues within housing. There's broader issues within obtaining credit and mortgage and whatnot. So we still have these cases. We have a situation where Black Americans are disproportionately targeted for like even you know um, the things we have to deal with even with the student loan stuff. So that affects us as well. So that's what I mean when we talk about the latent functions of slavery. It's not restitution for slavery because come on, you're just walking in circles there. It has to be for something that you can prove that you're empirically going through today, that you're still affected by today. And in 2023 or and beyond, so this probably won't be in effect in terms of the conversation being pushed forward for like another 10 years. But that Black American presidential candidate, they cannot be one track minded. It cannot just be a protest candidate screaming up, getting up in people's faces, screaming, going up in senators' faces, acting a fool, talking about do you support reparations? Now that's childish play. That's childish thinking. We are way past that as Black Americans. Unless you just want attention, unless y'all niggas just want attention and just want to hop and huff and puff, then you can continue to do that with the protest candidate stuff. But if you serious, if y'all serious, and whoever listens to this 10 years now, or whoever, if y'all serious, then what happens is this: you need a profile of grassroots Black Americans that address that can address our needs, but they also can address the needs of the broader American public through policy that includes everybody. And they are open about what they're going to do for Black Americans. They're not hiding it. It's just not the end all be all. It's not they gotta wear it to the point where you turn off any chances of your ass even winning as a candidate. Any chance of you winning on the local level, whether it's the state level or the federal level. Any like what I've been seeing with the protest candidates and what I've been seeing like the strategy now is you're going to get a protest candidate and they uncouth as fuck. They turn off all of America. Uh, they damn near turn off Black Americans. And so like that strategy is not going to work. Okay. And so the thing is, this candidate has to be solid. It cannot just be somebody that's going to fold. They can't fold. They got to be somebody that's going to push, that's going to stand fast on what they said. They said they're going to do an executive order for the hate crime bill for Black Americans. That's what needs to happen. They said they're going to do an executive order for a compensation fund for the latent functions of redlining. That's what needs to motherfucking happen. It has to happen, even if it meant you know going out in a blaze of glory. This candidate needs to that they need to have it in their soul. They have to have that in their heart. Okay, but they also realize that they can't just they can't just be a one track minded candidate, or else it just won't go anywhere. The strategy won't work. Okay, so what kind of policies that could be promoted simultaneously by that particular candidate? I'll show you what some of that looks like right now. Uh, Again, I'll share some. This is just some stuff I was thinking of months ago, but again, a little early. But you have to address obviously the military, the education, business class, housing, alongside the Black American agenda. Because this, again, we're talking about Black Americans that's running for Congress, Black Americans that's running for Senate, Black Americans that's running for the fucking presidential White House. Okay, Black Americans, you need to start to think big, not small. You need to think, how can we all collectively, with our mind, energy, and our consciousness, get one in that White House? How do we get that White House? That's what you need to think, and it needs to be you need to be very strategic about it. Now, I'm thinking maybe our people's confidence is low to where we think like, okay, we not gonna ever be able to get in the White House, or we're not gonna ever win, or this thing of where you guys, if a black person do run, is like if it's a lot of fuckery with a lot of the candidates these days, because they don't necessarily speak to any of our agenda or to any of our specific lineage needs. And so I do understand the immediate pushback and knee jerk reactions to candidates that do run for office, particularly like I see a lot of Black Americans complaining about the recent speech Cornel West gave to about the Palestinians or something like that, because he's not having that same passion for a Black American agenda. I'm just saying this is what I saw you guys talking about, and so I said, okay, he's establishment. He was put out there for that was the carrot, that was the dangle carrot they put. By the way, they wanted all Black Americans to jump on that and run with it, and it's kind of falling flat because again, it has to be very clear that they're very open about what they're going to do for Black Americans. That's the only way to get Black American minds. After that, they have to be for America. They have to talk about the things they're going to do for everybody. But they cannot. But what Cornel West is lacking is I don't see no platinum plan. I don't see him working with Ice Cube to try to, you know what I mean. I'm not seeing no actual agenda, and so that's why it's going to fall flat. Now, let me share this real quick. Let's see. Okay, and so this was just me coming up with like some directives of what this will look like. I actually shared this. I'm gonna make it bigger, but I want you guys, because we're not gonna go through this whole thing, but I want you guys to at least see how long it actually is, because like that's why I said like that space. I had left that space because I'm dead ass serious. Like this is a policy. This is stuff that I've come up with for a candidate, a Black American candidate that would run. You guys can take this and run with this. Shit, I may run my damn self. That's how serious I am. But like, we need this. This is serious stuff. Like, so when I see people just bullshitting around, I can't. My energy, my brain don't work that way. And so, for one, here is the directives. This would be some directives for this particular, like, say, a Black American candidate. So the things that they would talk about as a presidential candidate. And so we'll cover a little bit of this, but also we have some sub edicts that cover military, education, work and life balance, American innovation, sustainability, and justice. So as you can see, we have some things for the military. Again, you can't just have this protest candidate just talking, just a one track minded candidate. They got to be able to carry the ball for the country. Can't just have some random. And so the first one would obviously, so let's just talk about some of this stuff. Some of these directives, obviously the first one we see is the UBI. That's one of the ones that could placate middle America. Now, this UBI, such a situation like that would be, in my mind, I would be thinking of like some sort of Head Start program that will help Americans. Let's see, with retirement, a 2 year pilot program to propel Americans in their retirement, because Americans are having a horrendous time. Generation Z and millennials are having a horrendous time saving for retirement. They're way behind, say, the previous generations before us. Now, people had their reasons for that, but one can argue that that's breakdown in the economy or some shit like that. But obviously, that could be one, a UBI pilot program. It don't have to be forever. It could just be a 2 year, 1 year pilot program. That could even be for housing closing costs. A payment that could be pay some type of credit or something for the broader America to one have closing costs for a house. This could be a Head Start for a Roth IRA for retirement, whatever. We just getting creative here. Now, this idea of UBI has been proposed before by other presidential candidates, but again, you have to. This is something that you know gets Americans' ears perked. Because while we have other agendas at play. The next one would be that crime that lineage-based redress for Black American racial stratification and hate crime bill. Now you see how that's worded. That's different than going up in there talking about some reparations for the transatlantic slave trade from Africa for slavery. That's what everybody gonna say. You ain't never been no slave. What the fuck? So this is much different. It's worded differently. Not only that, we can prove the hate. We have stats about the hate crime bill proving that Black Americans have been disproportionately the victims of hate crime, even more so than the Asians. And also, we can prove lineage-based redress for Black Americans, racial stratification regarding redlining and the latent functions of institutional injustice, something like that. Directive 3, moratorium on immigration. Moratorium on immigration. Okay, so some restrictions on immigration and more investment in American people. This could be in terms of incentives for manufacturing, tech startups, all types of tax credits for American tech startups, whatever. You're just thinking. You know, a certain moratorium for a certain period, maybe 10 years. On something about you know this is what's important to Black Americans. Now they actually put this on MSNBC that Black Americans was concerned with immigration policy. So it's not just important to Black Americans. It's important to the whole country. Immigration policy is important to everybody, and then it's polarizing. So you're either on one side, you're either for it, or you're against it, you're either whatever. We so that could be something of that nature. The next one is some sort of um, this one was just me. This one was just me kind of. I wasn't playing around, but like I was just kind of something. This was real personal. The rent tax credit for per American household. Okay, so this is just a subsidy of the income ratio up to 15% to ensure Americans are not paying more than 50% out of their um, uh, total for rent or whatever, or something like that. Directive 5 would be investment in affordable, holistic care and alternative health. So this is government incentives to pharmacies and hospitals and doctors who implement, say, CAM and CME to patients. Invest in integrate pharmacy and wellness. So, like, this is something. This is just optional. The next one be changes to the National Defense Authorization Act to ensure military members will receive a pay increase from 2024 to 2035, up to 8.6%. I think right now it's like 3%. They haven't received nothing, and so that would apply to all the active members of the Navy, the Marine Corps, Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, Space Force, whatever. And so that's just some things, to get the ears perking of an example. Next, you'll have here's some policy for the military. You know, so for one of the things that we've been talking about was increasing aid and strategies as in the Pacific Deterrence Initiative. To also develop Atlantic Deterrence Initiative that stops China's advancement in Africa. Again, this was things that I was thinking about from I'd be studying this stuff as a military science strategist. So this is really interesting to me. This is stuff that I actually like. um, Another one was obviously the cutting the funding to Ukraine, as well as consider the Dow military science instructional designs. I had created some Dow military science instructional designs that I actually want to send to the Air Force and to the Army, and I want to test it out and work on it. I want to work on that science to see if it's something that we can test, just like Addy and just like some of the other instructional design models that was developed by the military that are now implemented in the education system. Um, and so also, one of this was let me see. Yeah, so we don't need to cover that. So that's just the military stuff. But then we have some things with the education, and so we were talking about like implementing a research program for research and development for sustainable inventions in the public education system. Uh, and so, yeah, our research and development and sustainable invention. So that's something that is very important for planet Earth. Also, more emphasis in coding and robotics at the junior and high school level. And so, this is talking about in the age of artificial intelligence, we need to talk about like ethics and bias and human and intelligence centered design. And so, we, I would say we even need a full blown department for how this would even look like. And I think I talk about that in another. Oh yeah, in American Innovation, that's where I talk about to develop a government a department for artificial intelligence that deals with ethics laws, benevolence, and biases in contingency plans for artificial intelligence. I do think that, and I do think the government needs to develop a department. This beyond that and this came out before Biden passed that executive, by the way. Like it was published to the public before that, before he did that executive AI order. But I think that's not enough for where it's going. And I don't think it should be a regulatory body over AI at all. I think it should be studying, though, and coming up with some plans, some contingency plans in terms of how you're going to deal with biases of AI, how you're going to deal with of the ethics in terms of how like they're saying that the students are not going to know how to do math and reading, math and writing on their own with this AI stuff. So it's like, should AI be introduced? Should AI be allowed in the education system after certain formative years of a child's development? So I would think like maybe you don't introduce that into maybe even high school because they need to know how to read it. They need to know how to write. They need to know how to calculate on their own. So, in the age of chat GTP, that's something that we have to think about. So, um, for work and life balance, and I think after that, this would be something that I think people would jump on too eventually. As far as the American people, I think we need to cut the work week to 25 to 35-hour work weeks to start to help the humans. And I know that this is very human based, and I know it's not system based. It's not system based. I'm very human design centered in the way I think. I don't think systems based approach. I like system based approach, but I like to inculcate it with the well being and the the wellness of humans. And so, um, it's different from like what you'll see other people promote in terms of like, I get a lot of slack for that not being system based approach enough, not being worker based enough. Like, well, how do you increase human productivity, human performance technology in terms of productivity for the system? That is how they think. That is how anybody that runs this country or anybody that's in power, that's how they think. Bottom line is profit. And so like, and I've dealt with people who tried to bring me in the fold, who told me to stop thinking the way I'm thinking and to think like, we don't care about none of that. We care about just profit. Like, what you talking about humans and like we don't care about that. And so with me, it's like no, like I'm like no. So it's that's why I'm saying it. It makes it really hard for me to fit in with that mode of thinking. But anyways, um, we're not going to cover everything here, but you get the point. This candidate would need to have some things for sustainability, reducing the subsidies available for fossil fuels, protect and replenish natural capital, increase grants for the USDA's Environmental Quality Incentives Program for organic farming by huge amounts, um, reshape the views around HUD housing projects to building intentional communities, a pilot program for intentional communities, stuff like that. Ensure increase green community grants. It has to. They just have to. This when Black Americans start getting really serious and they start wanting to actually let me call that. Let me see what you said. Cults against the feminine. She has to be a rogue. I agree. Like it cannot be 3D, 4D mental programs as well. Like now, like we bring in. How do we say this without? Because again, I'm very very spiritual, and I don't hide that. But at the same time, it's no secret that I've had dealings in the political arena and with the in this Black empowerment space for years, and so I can kind of flow both ways. But I'm done with the 3D approach to politics, 4D approach. This got to be very much in alignment with the universe. Okay, we bring in 5D, actually higher than 5D. We bring in uh heaven to earth type thinking. We bring in a God consciousness on this planet, and I know that that's like okay, now you going left, but when we talk about recarving, this restructuring the entire system, and we're talking about having these presidential candidates because they be black women or whatever, whoever it is, black Americans in particular, it's you have to be a high level. Like and we're not talking about just going along to get along, being willing to to placate to what we have now. Like you're restructuring, you're recarving, you're innovating this entire system, even if that meant your death. I mean, like you wouldn't be the first one to try it. JFK tried something; they blew his fucking brains out right in front of everybody to send a message because he was talking, who he was going to go after. And I'm not saying you got to do all that and be that reckless, but in terms of pushing the envelope of what we need as a society, as humans, is what's most important. Now you have these political agendas of obviously you have the corporations because you're pretty much becoming a president of a corporation, and they follow the law of water and admiralty law. And so, in terms of government versus governance, that's where this presidential candidate um, is proposing. I mean, you're not shaking up the whole thing just right then and there, but incrementally, because what's happening, this is where it's going. This system is not going to stay the way it is. I hope Black Americans know that. I hope anybody listening knows that. Like the way you see this current system, it is falling. It is not sustainable. It's so many cracks, so many glitches in the matrix. It's very obvious that the way it's going is not always going to be that way, and it's not going to continue to work. And so your best and brightest human design centered thinkers, those are the ones that need to be in the think tanks. Those are the ones that need to become the operatives. Those are the ones that need to restructure the system. Those are the ones, my background in instructional design, those are the ones that need to come with the military science. People that are human centered, people that who are uh, really to usher in this new age for America, this new age. And we're talking about governance versus government, the divine feminine, all of these things. This is what's coming. And so while the American people separate the spiritual from the state and all this stuff and politics from that's the way they're at right now. Eventually this will all come full circle. I'm just a little early. So 15 years from now, you'll hear people talking about the awakening. This is what they're trying to do now is usher in this false awakening called Great Reset and new normal and all this stuff. And you'll own nothing and be happy. That's what they said, Bill Gates, the 2030 agenda and all this stuff. That's what they're pushing. That's the fake reset. That's the fake Great Reset. But the real Great Reset is higher than 5D consciousness hitting this planet. Now, you humans may be adjusting to a 5D consciousness, but it's certainly a higher. This is it's higher than 70. It's interdimensional, so it's not even so much a set dimension hitting this planet right now. It's silos of consciousness. But the ones that run this system and the new system that's being ushered in, those are beings that cannot be at the 3D level. They won't be allowed to be because their incompetence will be so obvious. So a person at a 3D level will not. That's why this shit is falling apart now. That's why you got the Democrats looking crazy as cat shit out here. Biden looking crazy. Everybody looking crazy as hell because they got 3D consciousness, and the people can see through that because they're evolving, they're awakening. And so the person that get in there now, in the future, 5 years, 10 years, 4 years, 4 years, 8 years from now, whatever, whether that be at a presidential level or even the Congress level, they're gonna have to if they want the heart and minds of this people. We all know that this stuff is selected, not elected, anyways. But even the ones that get selected, y'all niggas gonna have. Let me be professional. Y'all gonna have to still select motherfuckers that's not at 3D level consciousness, because if you do keep going for these 3D level uh people, they're gonna crash this. They're gonna crash the system. It's already crashing. They're not capable of running it. They're not capable of evolving it. They're not capable of moving with the flow of the universe. And so that's going to be very obvious. So I don't even need to say anything to that. But I'm saying, like, we all know, okay, people have these conspiracies of whether or not people with the vote even matters, or whether or not it's selected or elected. It don't even matter whether it's selected or elected. It's still got to be a certain level of consciousness. This person still got to be so competent beyond beyond 5D dimensional thinking at that, because they have to carve out a whole new infrastructure for, not even a whole new, they need to incrementally innovate the current system. That's what I'll say. They need to incrementally innovate the current system. And so, what I would employ the Black American is to see yourself in a position to be able to do that. You need to be very serious, Black American. For those of you that's in that space, that political space, that love this politics. You know, I've been around Black Americans who eat, sleep, breathe politics. I've been around people who work for the government, who worked in Congress, who wrote legislation. I've been around Black Americans who've done that. So what I'm saying is, for those of you who still, that's part of these think tanks, you need to be very serious about getting in that White House, and you need to start developing uh, profile candidates, and with the certain executive actions to get there that they would have, and they need some of you guys, you guys are whole think tanks that actually fund candidates, and so you need to be that's where your mind need to be, that White House, that you need to be thinking big, okay? And you have to have millions of the Black Americans supporting that particular candidate and focus on getting that White House. It can't be a person that's under oath, a person that won't get shit done, an incompetent person. No, they gotta be pure hearted. Uh they gotta be radical in a sense of standing on a square in terms of their agendas, in terms of that innovation, that incremental innovation of this current system. They can't be 3D dimensional, one track minded. Okay, and they preferably would need the backing of one of the two major parties. But I personally, again, it's too many 3D, that Democrat stuff. I'm telling you, they in bad shape for 2024, boy. They in bad shape, and I'm not into. I told myself, I can't get into. I ain't giving that my energy. But whew, okay, and so Black Americans, the Black American mind, when we're talking about this 5D, 6D, 7D Earth, this new Earth, you have to realize that your ability to you don't have to do much physical action these days to get the results that you want. You can manifest certain positionality. You can manifest certain uh as far as this White House, and the candidates that you want, the things that you want to see done, your agendas that you want to see done. You can do that through just merely thinking it these days. Now I know that we are not there yet, but eventually you will see that if you put 500 people, a couple thousand people, 10,000 people at the same time thinking of something the same way, pushing it really heavy, just like 2018 when all them ADOS niggas came, just like when all the Freedmen's came for. That's when all the Black Indigenous in 2022 came for, with the Secure the Tribe. That energy where you slam down hard. And I know for a fact that my energy in 2019, 2020 pushed like that clubhouse stuff that I was saying, like that, just that energy alone when we were just talking for hours like that and just thinking real hard and pushing all the way we pushed that reparations like that. And it wasn't, I'm not saying it was just me. I'm just saying it was a group of us with very, very, very powerful energy that kept focusing on it. Now, it doesn't mean that our energy was perfectly guided or perfectly directed. Some of it was misdirected. I can say offhand that a lot of my energy was misguided and misdirected during them years on a Clubhouse and all that shit, spending all them years on Twitter Spaces, arguing with with Africans and all that stuff. Like sure I could say that a lot of that was misguided. Sure, I can own up to that. But that energy was real powerful though. It was real powerful with Black Americans going day in and day out. We will wake up, get our asses on there, and talk about how we need these reparations. And that energy just, it got so, even the politicians started taking it up. Presidents over in Africa. It was, I remember one time it was a space on Clubhouse where we was talking so hard about going in so hard about delineation and grassroots and flat blackness and reparations. I mean, we had I mean, it was like one of the secretaries to the prime minister in the UK in there. It was a actual royal prince from Ghana in there. And there's like on the clubhouse arguing with us. And we was arguing with, and that's so much arguing, but having that dialogue, having that dialogue. Um, and I was a firecracker, at that time. And I remember, some of the other Black indigenous women, they were on there. We were on there day in and day out. We would just be going in. And so I'm saying that kind of energy that you put towards that reparations with just thinking with your mouth, you need to put that same energy on getting your ass in that White House, Black Americans. Getting one of your grassroots candidates in that White House. Getting in major positions in the Senate seats. That's what you need to be thinking of. And you need and just putting that energy towards that. And then carving out new methodologies for how you're gonna get that restitution. Because the current way that you're going about it through the task force stuff that's falling flat on its place. That's a Democratic co-option. So it's as simple as that. But again, we're bringing this high level consciousness, 5D consciousness to Earth level. And again, it's higher than 5D, but everybody on this 5D thing now, so I'll just say that for now. But one just needs to merely think about it these days. Okay, and you get that Black American that's candidate sworn to pass this hate crime bill, pass an executive order to create this restitution fund for Jim Crow and redlining, housing and employment discrimination, back with data based on lineage, right? That type of person, real renegade out here, but also about, again, I'm gonna keep it a buck. We're moving into the age of the divine feminine. We're moving into that age. This is an age of enlightenment. This is an age of innovation. This is an age of balance. This is an age of taking care of planet Earth. And so all of this soul system is going to have to go towards that. If it's not in line with the universe, it's going to crumble like a fucking house of cards. It's going to fall. And no more of what we see in the 3D world. No more of what we see with the house of cards. This little, was it Fun Town? We can all see it for the toy that it is. It's a Maya glitch. It's a Maya matrix. And so, we have to really, people have to think, they're going to be thinking hard and long of how to incrementally, I won't even say incrementally. Eventually, it's going to be so obvious that that we need a new parallel infrastructure, that we need a new infrastructure. And so, again, Black Americans, you need to demand that White House. You need to really be thinking hard of a strategy to pass them certain executive orders that also have things for all of America. Enough things where everybody's needs is met, so where they not focus on blocking Black American policies. It's like, okay, everybody needs is met. Military needs is met. Corporation needs is met. Middle America needs is met. Working class America needs is met. All it has to be a well-rounded president. Okay. Again, focus on getting in that White House, a real thoroughbred person in that, and know how to comport yourself, and know how to get shit done, and don't be corrupt. Do not be corrupt, because that's another thing. That's what happened with the freedmen space. A lot of with their reparations, it started to get corrupt. That's why it started to fall. That's why you started to have issues. People started falling apart. People arguing and bickering in the reparations space because it's a lot of corruption in there. Okay? This candidate, you have to have American ideas, putting American people first, Black Americans, American education, American manufacturing, American foreign policy. All that stuff need to be, this candidate needs to know all of that. They need to be able to talk that talk. Okay? So it's a new day. It needs to be a golden age. It needs to be centered like that. It needs to, for any of our people that run, you need to be thinking of a golden age for America in terms of the economy, innovation, invention, prosperity, things for Black Americans. And again, if you just go in there as a protest candidate with a one-track mind, going up in senators' faces, screaming and hollering at them about if they support reparations or not, going around thinking that you're going to interview on Breakfast Club and asking, do you support reparations, obnoxious shit like that. No, nobody like that. That ain't gonna get unless y'all niggas is not serious. I mean, this is if this all funhouse, um, Matrix stuff. Then just disregard what I'm saying. But for anybody that's serious, especially these grassroots people, um, those who are really grassroots and really serious, that this is for you. This is not for those who are under oath, or for those who can't make a move. They can't get out of line, or else their collar won't get pulled. We don't need none of that around none of our movements. And one day you guys are going to see that. You guys will see that. And so again, think of golden age. Think of a way to be well rounded, not one track minded, but very, very, very upfront, very serious of that. These are the policies that you're going to do for Black Americans. There ain't no problem with that. But you also have policies for the military. You also have things for uh, other groups as well for what they need. But you're not going to abandon what the Black American needs, and that's what we've been dealing with now. This is why you got an issue with Kamala Harris, and we have an issue with Cory Booker and Cornel West, and all this. Why you have these issues, because you feel like they don't have this Black American agenda, and so whoever does that uh, will could potentially make a move. Again, I'm early on this stuff, so I would say I say I won't see manifestations of what I'm trying to see as far as Black Americans running for that presidential office. You probably like won't see that until like 10 years, maybe another 8 years. But I say we do it now. Start working on it now. So then, come 2028, you got a plan of action. Work on it now. And I know that there are operatives that still check in with me and watch this stuff. So implement some of the things I said and carve out. Start working on it. So I'll say that. Yeah, but oh yeah, okay. Let me. I was looking at something else. Let me see what you said. You said the law of water system is so baby level to what's really anchored in. Exactly, girl. Exactly. And we love water. As far as the divine feminine, we love the birthing waters, primordial waters. But we talking some galactic shit down here. We like the universe. Like when we talk about the 12 laws of the universe, we even got more than 12, but like the law of water, the law of admiralty, and the law of water is actually could have worked, but they converted it. Like the law of water in the financial system, it's all right. It is not a perfect system. The law of water they use in the court system, what they call it admiralty law. You know, it was they hecka based spelling, through their words and their legalese. That's how they've been putting. That's how they've been hoodwinking the masses through legalese. But in a occult level. But that's a bit too much for those that's watching. These probably like this video is more political, but yeah, like all that got to be carved out in terms of government versus governance, and how would you base that system on? Right now, the current system is based on the law of water, but it's a perverted version of it. It's a perverted. It's a based on a misinterpretation of sciences that that the powers that be didn't quite get right, and so that's why you see the system crumbling the way it is. To be quite frank, and like Waters Humanity saying, the law of the universe uh, is about accountability. The ones who are abusing the system will tell the truth or vibrate out. Nothing personal. It's just exactly. It's an input output thing. It's nothing personal at all. I be saying that all the time. It's like this is just a removal of low governing force. This is just look, balance. Like a part of the universe is balance, and that inevitably ties in justice. Just when we talk about like I forgot, it was a beautiful man that used to say the universe bends towards justice. I think he wrote a whole book on it. But that's a awesome saying. The universe bends towards justice. But when we talk about justice in terms of like the way we see it, it's not an emotional plea like we're out there with a picket marching. It's more like balance. It's like cathartic, the cleansing, of course, um, facing the shadows and balance and silos and because this is about electromagnetism at the end of the day. We all know that's one of the governing forces of the universe, and that's how the law works. That's how the world. That's how the universe works. The major governing force of this world, and even if your bodies generate electromagnetism. And so when we talk about balance, we're simply like literally balancing out electrons, protons. Like we're literally like balancing out radiation. Like this is how we see it if we were to look at it from a subatomic particle level. But once we get into like the 3D level with humans, and the systems that they come up with, the governments that they come up with, it looks different when we talk about that. But if I was just to see like from someone from like me as I don't want to say interdimensional being because that would scare people, but for me of my thinking, it's just a balancing out of the way I see it in my mind of electrons, protons, and electromagnetism in terms of balancing out the levels of radiation. But when we bring it down here, it's like we are. Let me see what you said. Right. Divided log universe. Why you say laughing? Why you laughing your ass off, Waters of Vanity? Tell me why. Tell me why you put that there. But for me, it's like that's how I. That's all it is. It's just not personal. It's just not personal. But that's what it. And if I know I may be losing people, but I'm gonna end the video because I'll end it because we're not there yet on that stuff. But yeah. So Black Americans, that's where your mind need to be focused on. That's what you need to be focused on. Expound on that. Expound on that. Waters of Humanity. What you mean by you expound on that? But yeah. That's what we need to focus on. Black Americans getting in that White House, coming out with better methodologies for getting the agenda done that we need. Oh, I see. I see. Well, because we are, but we not. We not there yet. Waters of Humanity in terms of like understanding that they trying. I would say in 10 years it won't be as scary to say something like that, but now it still is. And a part of the system that we're ushering in, the governance that we're ushering in, we're very when we talk about like the ancient ones, we talk about because I know people take issue with the idea of chosen ones too, but the idea that the ones that are going to be running this system in the future, we've been very clear that we want to be out in the open, that we don't want to hide. You know, I know you don't be telling them who you are either. We a lot of people is in the same boat as us. You know, we not the only ones, and that makes it cool. But we've been hiding for so long, and it's kind of like my generation. Like, we don't want to. Why do we need to hide that? And so as you can see with the Pentagon and the intelligence officers and the Air Force, they're actually not the Air Force, Space Force, they're actually trying to figure out a way to get all this out to the people. And they doing some funding with NASA, how they're gonna, bring this out into the public consciousness, and with this kind of talk. So 10 years from now, it would be very, very common. Like it won't be a big deal at all. But now it's still kind of like, uh, they try to label people when we talk like this. So I'll save it for now. Uh, yeah, but I'm gonna end it. And so, yeah, thanks for tuning in, Waters Humanity, and I'll talk with y'all later.